the Work Life Reporter. I am your host, Joshua Digi, and we're on another episode, which is fantastic to see that we're on a bit of a roll. And for me, it's just a really great privilege to have our guest for today in the room, well, virtually anyway, to have a really great conversation. Our guest today is Catherine Berman, from Snake, and I think for me, what was really great to be able to have a conversation with Catherine is just because, as a people leader in such a cutting edge company, it's great to be able to just have speak to someone that has such, their finger on the pulse, and be able to work with such at the forefront of AI, and where, where the sector is going. We know it's all over the news right now, the future of AI, but more than anything, we still realize that these technologies are built by individuals, and more than anything, they're powered by people. And speaking to people leaders is exactly what where I believe is something that's being left behind, and it's great to be able to speak to someone like Catherine. So, Catherine, I'd love if you could just give our audience a bit of background on yourself, your career, and where you're at right now, at Snake, and some of the things you're working on from your perspective.
Sure. Well, I recently went through the exercise of figuring out what has linked my very unusual career trajectory. And I started off actually as a writer and editor in the beginning of my career. As I was an English major and an art minor. And as you can imagine, living in New York and Montana and Nantucket and Portland, Oregon, when you are a writer, there have to be other means of supplementing your income, which led me to the hospitality industry. And I immediately blossomed. I became obsessed with the experience that people had in hospitality, both guest facing and for my teams. And very quickly, my career took off in hospitality and far outshadowed what I was doing as a writer. Um, I will pause and just say that what was the engine behind all of it the whole time was, how can I bring joy to people through my writing, through hospitality, through creating these experiences? What did it mean to be a leader in the hospitality industry? I eventually became a director at boutique hotels in Portland, and I saw the landscape of the industry become completely transformed during the pandemic. It fascinated me. It was very hard to see something that, even in moments historically of great financial distress, you always think, well, people have to eat. People will always go out. They need to escape. And this just turned everything upside down. So I became fascinated with the technology that was allowing places in this industry to succeed. And I identified Toast as this amazing company that actually allowed restaurants to get through the pandemic with contactless ordering. And people really weren't looking for high touch fine dining anymore. It made me rethink my whole career trajectory, and I very much wanted to be a part of the team at Toast. So I joined there as I guess, essentially a culture experience manager, and ended up overseeing workplace experience for the North America region. And recently this year moved over to Sneak, taking my workplace experience and putting it towards overseeing all of people experience at this AI tech company, which is doing really incredible things in the space.
Yeah.
And when I met you, we talked about this, but I've had the really cool opportunity to be in workplace in these two unique moments. One with the post pandemic return to office,
Yeah.
and that worldwide question that all workplaces have been asking themselves, which is, We told everyone they could be remote. What's bringing them back into space? Why are we in space? And what are we offering them there? And now, 5 years later, we have another revolutionary moment that we are facing, which is what does workplace experience, people experience, and culture mean as we boldly venture into this AI world that we've never been in before.
Yeah.
So overall, I think just it's been a very exciting time to be in the experience side of tech companies.
It's really fascinating that you speak about how your career started. I think that was, for me, it's such a unconventional way to enter the technology space. From where you went, from when you started as a writer and then moving into the hospitality sector, but building up that passion about building up that passion about people and keeping it fundamentally down to, that fundamental belief you had about making people happy and more than anything, wanting to have that connection to people. I think that's really, really fascinating. And I think it's a great segue for us to, really dive in here. Because I'd love to talk about the fact that we see a lot of what's going on in the AI space right now. A lot of engineers and researchers are being offered just an incredible amount of money. Some of them, we're talking 8 to 9 figures to join an organization. But we're also seeing that at times that's not really a factor for a lot of these people to join an organization. They sometimes there are multiple factors that are playing a part in what makes them want to either jump ship or join an AI company, either as a researcher or as an engineer. So I'd love to speak to you a bit more about, once pay stops being the differentiator, what actually decides who stays and who joins a company? From your perspective, in your experience, what do believe are the key factors that play a part in that, especially if pay is not a major factor?
It's a great question. And I think it is a two-part thing, right? Because I like to get to know all facets of the company and have these kind of conversations across lines of business. So recently, I was talking with our talent attraction team about this. And when they're talking to people about joining us at Sneak, like, why Sneak? Why now?
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. There are so many organizations offering incredible levels of pay. They will boast that they have the best benefits,
Yeah.
notoriously great benefits, right? Um, and in that environment, what really makes the difference, and what I've seen is people want to be a part of something, I would say that's bigger than them, but when I say they want to be a part of that, they want to be a part of that. They
Yeah.
want to be able to build something incredible. There are a lot of things that have already been built, and you can join those things, or you can be a part of doing something that's never been done before. And if somebody believes that they're going to make an impact, you think about the fact that you spend so much time at work doing this job, and like, what do you take away from that at the end of the day? Is it just another job where you are an engineer or you work in the HR team, or are you a part of a moment? And I think that we all want to do something that really matters in the language that we personally speak. And so once somebody crosses the line and they decide to be a part of that experience, it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
You have to constantly be able to deliver on that promise of what made them sign up to be a part of that in the first place. So that's really creating the experience architecture of doing the big thing that they signed up to do, and
Yeah.
making and enabling that for them.
No, that's amazing, amazing insight there. Again, I keep going back to, the fact that your time at Toast and now at Sneak, you've really worked at two companies who are essentially changing, whose products are essentially changing how work gets done in a certain way, whether that be with AI security, whether that be in the hospitality sector. How do you, as you know, as a professional, from your perspective, how do you develop an experiential system, in for companies like these? Because these are companies essentially looking to change how people work, how people execute. How do you build those experiential systems, as a people leader yourself?
So I have this theory about culture at a company. And
Yeah.
I think that the culture that you bring to the table has to be inextricably linked to the actual mission. And that's not just repeating your value statement over and over and over again.
Yeah.
At a place like Toast, it was so tangible because, the beautiful stories about these people who are living their dreams and creating their restaurants, and we're building the technology. And it's very easy to connect the dots of bringing in restaurant owners, eating their food, having panels, hearing from them, hearing how this technology has transformed their lives. Um, but really, like, when I thought about experiences like that, it was like, we're not just doing come to work, it's lunch on a Wednesday, or like Wellness Wednesday, right? Where you do like yoga in the office. But how can we layer yoga in the office with a local business in every single one of our regions that is owned, maybe like a minority owned business that reflects perhaps a certain month that we're in on an international level? How can we tell the story of those business owners and get them into the space so they can talk to people face to face? So I think that when you build it, it's like you're fleshing out the stories of what you're building as an organization. And here at Sneak, I think it was such an exciting, kind of like never before done time where we are working in this AI world. And we're, I think, very special as a company because we're making AI and AI education so accessible to all of our employees. But in there lies the challenge of like, okay, you're right in the trenches. Where else would you rather be, first of all? Like, what an exciting time to be at a place like this. But if the R&D team is going to be hearing from an incredible speaker to invigorate them, is there any reason why we don't open this up to every single person so that we know what R&D is working on? We understand what the marketing team is working on. We're taking in this information, and whether or not we know every single term, we're learning it through osmosis. So I think essentially what I'm saying is that what makes workplace experience really something digestible and like hits people at their heart is when you break down those silos and they feel like every bit of them is a part of that mission, that we're all here together.
Yeah, no, that's really amazing. I think it all fundamentally boils down to, why some AI companies, they're out hiring other, even some larger counterparts based on culture alone. And I think it comes down to the fact that when they are experiencing culture in a different way, when they feel the mission is so important, when they feel the calling of what this company is bringing to bear is so solid and is so pertinent to the future of not just their sector, not just their industry, but possibly the technology that they're focusing on in itself. I think people feel that calling more than, and at times it may be hard for people to understand that people feel that over some at times financial incentive. So it's really fascinating to hear, the way you speak about that, the way you speak about that in practice on the ground, and how you bring that to bear with your engineers, with your researchers, with people within your organization, because it goes beyond perks. It's more about knowledge. It's more about sharing that with people who have that insight and expertise to always keep individuals on the cutting edge, and remind them of that, of the company's mission. And it's just absolutely amazing to see to see you speak about that, because it's absolutely clear that you feel very passionate. You're very passionate about wanting to bring that, that culture experience to bear within the organization. Um, I'd love to talk a bit more about the practical, unglamorous moves that that come with creating that experience, especially making sure that you're retaining your best people, giving them that beyond, of course, going beyond pay, but more about building that, the unglamorous logistical part of building an ecosystem that you feel that makes people at an organization want to stay there, and more than anything want to be part of what the company's trying to achieve. It'll be great to get some context on that from your perspective.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the unglamorous part of creating experience is, in my opinion, the most glamorous part of workplace experience. It's no secret that the number one thing that people care about when it comes to their work is psychological safety. And I don't think that that can be understated. And there's no amount of parties and nap pods and slides in the office that are really going to replace what psychological safety is. And when I think about that, truly, I think, how accessible is information to people? If I need a document, how quickly can I find a document? If I need to ask someone a question, how long before I get a response? Um, I think that building a workplace experience are small series of consistent deliveries of a promise. When I think about going into the office, and this is something that I debate with my peers and friends all the time because it's a very polarizing topic these days. There are some people, and they do not want to go into an office. Doesn't really matter what they do. Their home is where they want to work, and I do understand that. But for me personally, over the years, I cherish the days that I get to come into the office, and I think about every single component that goes into that experience, and because it's my job, I reflect upon why and what transpires there. So, I think about how much I love my train ride and the, decompression before I walk into the space. That to me has become a habit that I value. I think about walking into an office where everything I need is at my fingertips, where I can go into a conference room and the technology has been correctly assembled so that I can join a meeting without any stress, where I have the whiteboards that I need, the accessories that I need. All of these little things give me psychological safety. I love being able to pop over my desk and talk to my direct supervisor about an initiative that we're working on. I love understanding what's going on with the climate of the space, what the buzz is in the air, hearing what the R&D team is talking about. And I think there's a lot of conversation surrounding workplace trends like collaboration space, the lunches, the happy hours, but you really cannot underestimate the importance of creating stable, clean, quiet spaces for people where they
Yeah.
can literally come in and know that they can connect with the people they need to connect with and get their work done. And that those human connections that they have feel really, really good. Um, and this has to happen repeatedly on a global level in all of your spaces so that you have sort of a doctrine that you all live and abide by. And that doesn't always look like the most glamorous thing. But when you do this day after day and you have these, we use the term amenities, which, it could be a gym, it could be an espresso machine. But to me, the amenities are the people. It's
Yeah.
having somebody sitting at that front desk who can warmly greet you every single day and is there as a resource. When I build my team and hire my team, which is global, I want us all to be these humans that embody the value of being kind to one another and the type of people who will keep asking questions curiously. And it's okay. They know that it's okay if they don't know the answer because they're just the type of people who will keep knocking on doors and asking until they get it. And if those are the people whose like the experience is in their hands, you know that all of those little micro interactions are going to have a rippling effect and actually change the way that people's brains engage with their own workplace. And I guess just my final thought is that, you know, people are creatures of habit and they really don't want to change a great thing.
Yeah.
And we make real human connections and we feel very proud of the projects that we work on in the workplace. And it takes like the simplicity of beautiful, clean, thoughtfully run organizations by people with heart that make that possible.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing, Catherine. I think um, that perspective that you've been able to offer there in terms of ultimately it being the people that make these places special, and I love that analogy of the fact that the people are the amenities. It's an absolutely incredible foresight there to think about it from that perspective. I think to round things off, I'd love to talk to you about the future, where you see the workplace culture going from, especially now the technology is playing such a pivotal factor in how people are experiencing workplaces. We're seeing the dynamic changing a lot, with work from home initiatives and amenities and systems and how leaders such as yourself are having to not just work through the nuances of that, but more than anything, how they feel workplace experience and workplace culture and workplace ecosystems and insights are going to be how they're going to look in the future. It'd be great to get your perspective on that because I think that's absolutely crucial for anyone listening or watching this, trying to get an understanding of what the future looks like for people leadership and what the future looks like for workplace culture.
I think that things are moving very quickly. And I know I just wax poetic about repeating things and being able to have that consistency.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that workplaces that say this is our culture, this will never change, and this is what we believe in, and it will always be like this, you're not going to be delivering on that promise to people, not in an AI world, because every single month, technology is moving faster. I mean, it's literally being generated by forces that humans are not responsible for any longer. So I think that we really have to shift that and say that the consistency that we are going to deliver is that we are going to be adaptable. And it's okay to not exactly know what culture is going to look like in a year. But what we do know is that we move with heart and we move with agility and we are ready to adapt and provide the resources that people need. One thing that I have said long before I ever worked in tech is that, my own motto is that you do the best that you can do with the tools that you are given. And if
Yeah.
every single day we know what the tools are at our disposal and we like sincerely are giving our all 100% of the time and that resonates through the entire company, we're going to be okay. That said, I believe the future is in companies that are providing education to people and are allowing their employees to adapt and change and really like support this moment. I love talking to people who are in different places in their career outside of the workforce, like family members that are retired and you want to be like, you won't believe what's going on in here. But I will often say that my output in a day sometimes feels like a year ago what would have taken me a week or 2
Yeah.
weeks to do. I think what is important then is like, do we trust the information that we're working with? And
Yeah.
are we creating an environment where this kind of output is truly sustainable? So, thinking about companies that are open to changing their meeting culture, the way that they document things. For instance, the one-on-one format that I think people have lived and breathed for years, where you have your template and somebody fills it out, and that takes a half an hour of their time. And then
Yeah.
you meet with them and you go over the points that they have already filled out. And I was thinking about this with my team and how, we have less people often with the expectation to be delivering more. That's just where we're at. I was
Yeah.
like, if we are transcribing our conversations on our one-on-ones and we're tracking that, can we take these transcriptions every single week and auto-generate a summary of what we're working on? And why am I asking you to take an hour out of your day to prepare for your conversation with me? I would
Yeah.
rather you be spending that time doing something valuable. So I
Absolutely.
think the companies that start to really think about like the way that we used to do things in the past, they might not fit with the AI world that we're living in for the future.
Yeah.
But we have to leverage what AI is giving us so that we're moving in lockstep with it as best we can. So yeah, I think that the courage to be adaptable and to be incredibly unapologetic in adaptability is going to set companies apart in the workplace.
No, that's amazing. I think, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that flexibility, and the ability for companies to be multifaceted is going to play such a huge part in this ever-changing landscape, in this rapidly changing landscape. So it's just really great to hear that perspective from a people leader like yourself, because I think it's more crucial than ever to understand the workplaces are they're a microcosm of how people see, of how people experience the world, because we go into these places, whether remotely or in person. We go into these places and we're in this closed environment where, as a people leader, you have to build these culture ecosystems for every single person in there, whatever division they may be in. And the landscape is changing so quickly. It's always, it's interesting to see how that's going to factor into the experiences you create, from everything into those little logistical elements that you spoke about, such as one-to-one, such as meetings, such as town halls, and all hands, because AI is playing such a massive factor in all those elements. But you can still create a distinctive workplace environment depending on how you execute those functions, and how you interact with people within those organizations, no matter what level they may be at. So it's just really great to hear you speak about that, and hear you get um speak so broadly about how that's going to look, what that's going to look like in the future. But so I really appreciate that insight. I think, lastly, what I just really like to talk about, is, and this is, from your personal perspective, what do you believe is the number one factor right now that is perhaps either hindering or bolstering workplace culture? What do you think is the number one key factor?
I think that joy is so
Boy,
incredibly important.
that's
I
amazing.
really do. I really do. I have believed it in every single thing. It's where we started the conversation, but I think warmth in the workplace in a true way, where you follow through on your word and you see people and you know people and you respect their boundaries. And it's kind of like an oldie but a goodie,
Yeah.
going back to basics. And
Yeah.
it really doesn't We can talk about technology and AI all day long, but the thing that's like really irreplaceable is just being around people who enjoy being around each other. And that goes back to what I said regarding psychological safety. And if
Yeah,
you can create that environment in the workplace where people are excited to see you every day, they're excited to be with each other, and they know that they're going to get support from their teammates. Again, these are all micro interactions that just have a way of weaving through the entire organization where we're all excited to share and stretch our talents across lines of business to succeed together. But it just comes from heart, and it comes from
yeah.
being nice to each other and smiling and just remembering that makes us human, and that's really who we are.
No, that is absolutely amazing, Catherine. That's so fascinating to hear you speak about joy that way, about creating warmth and in a workplace, because I think at times we lose that in because as companies garner more employees, they get larger, they become these corporate behemoths. We forget ultimately that building that warmth and building that cohesion ultimately comes down to, I mean, for lack of better words, like you said, joy. It comes down to creating a place that people are absolutely enthusiastic to walk into every day. It feels like it's a lost art, but it comes down to it. Ultimately, if you are absolutely joyful, or just if you feel that warmth from your colleagues, from the experience of being there, knowing that you're part of something bigger and part of something important, it really is just it could foster not just change but growth. It could also foster ingenuity and creativity in a workplace that you or in a sector that you never knew that these things could even be possible. And I think that's just an amazing piece of insight, Catherine. I could not be more grateful for this conversation. And I just, for one, just wanted to say once again how appreciative I am to be able to get some of your time and to be able to speak with a people leader working at such a cutting edge company. But also the fact that you spoke so much about the fact that this is about people ultimately. This is about humans empowering great technology, working at the cutting edge of great technology. But at the end of the day, this is a human-based environment filled with individuals and nuances, and everyone has to ultimately understand that. And I think this is something you said in our previous conversation before this stream. You said that at the end of the day, humans will always play a massive factor in the future of artificial intelligence, in the future of technology, because at the end of the day, we are the ones. Um, we're at the nucleus of these. We are not just we're the key factor in the inception of these technologies, but more than anything, it's humans working with humans that make great products, that make great technology, and effectively make businesses run ultimately, no matter how much things change, and things are changing incredibly rapid, at such an absolutely breakneck pace. But humans play that massive factor, and no matter how much technology changes in itself, in its application, and in its consumption, it's still humans that are the ultimate consumer of everything that's going on. So it's just been so amazing to hear you, to hear your perspective, and to garner such insight from someone so close, and someone in such close proximity to such innovation. So thank you so much, Catherine. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. And for all our viewers and listeners, Snake is just such an absolutely amazing company doing such great things. But Catherine is building such an amazing culture within the organization, and I know that she's already she's got some really great initiatives that she'll be sharing on LinkedIn with her audience and the network. And please do go check out Catherine on LinkedIn, and Snake as an organization, because I believe what she's working on is and the culture and the systems that she's building over there is going to be a benchmark that a lot of people would be absolutely proud to follow. Catherine, thank you so
Oh,
much for your
thank
time.
you. It was
Yeah.
a pleasure. Really, really love talking about this stuff, and I feel so honored that you had me on.
Yeah, no, that I think the honor is absolutely ours. Thank you so much. This has been the Work Life Reporter, and this has been Catherine Berman, and then hopefully we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for listening or for watching, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Have a
Bye.
good evening. Bye.